All right, so get this. We're diving into Carl Jung today.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and not just any Jung.
Okay.
We're tackling this idea that our assumptions,
Hmm.
the ones we may not even realize we're making, are actually like shaping our reality.
Interesting.
They're working with an excerpt here, so we're getting right to the core of his thinking.
Right.
Buckle up, because he uses some pretty wild examples to show how powerful this concept is.
Like what?
Things like wealth relationships,
Okay.
even self-fulfilling prophecies.
Interesting. So what's intriguing about Jung is that he doesn't just tell us to think positive thoughts.
Right.
He links our unconscious beliefs, the blueprints we're running on without even knowing it, to the tangible outcomes in our lives.
So it's not just some mystical good vibes only kind of thing.
Not at all. Jung argues that our subconscious mind, it doesn't analyze whether our assumptions are true or false.
Mm-hmm.
It just takes them and runs with them.
Okay.
It's like we're projecting those beliefs onto the world and then reacting to that projection as if it were actually happening.
Okay, hold on. That's a bit mind-bending.
Yeah.
So you're saying if I constantly assume people don't like me, my subconscious just accepts that as fact?
In a way, yes. And then, based on that assumption, you might act shy or defensive, which ironically could lead people to actually distance themselves.
Oh, wow.
You're creating the very reality you fear, a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Wow. So it works both ways then. If you assume people do like you, that could lead to more positive interactions.
Absolutely. Someone who assumes they're likable will often act with a certain confidence and warmth, which naturally draws people in. The same principle applies across all areas of life, not just our social interactions.
Okay, so let's talk about some of these other areas. Jung specifically mentions wealth. How would assumptions about money impact someone's life?
Imagine two people. One assumes money is scarce, the other believes it flows easily.
Got it.
The first person might be constantly worried about finances, hesitant to try new things, even self-sabotaging when opportunities come up, because deep down they don't believe they're meant to be wealthy.
That's almost heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It's like their own beliefs are trapping them.
Exactly. Their actions then reinforce their initial assumption, creating a cycle of scarcity. On the other hand, the person who assumes abundance, they might be more open to taking calculated risks.
Okay.
Seeing opportunities where others don't. They genuinely believe financial success is possible for them.
So they're not just being reckless, they're operating from a different set of beliefs about what's possible. And those beliefs impact your decisions.
Precisely. Their actions guided by that assumption of abundance create the conditions for financial success.
So then how does this whole assumption thing play out in relationships?
Well, the excerpt suggests that going into a relationship, assuming that love is fragile, can actually create instability. It's like building a house on a shaky foundation.
If you're already expecting things to be difficult, you'd be on high alert for any sign of trouble.
Yes, and that can lead to overanalyzing every disagreement.
Oh, yeah.
Becoming overly possessive or jealous. You're constantly seeking reassurance, which ironically might push your partner away and bring about the very instability you feared.
Because who wants to feel like they're constantly walking on eggshells?
Right. But if you assume that love is enduring abundant, you're more likely to approach the relationship with a secure and trusting mindset.
Which allows the relationship to breathe and grow. So this isn't about faking positivity. It's about these deep-seated beliefs driving our actions and ultimately shaping our reality.
And it all comes back to the power of the unconscious mind influencing our perceptions and behaviors in ways we might not even be aware of. Which brings us to a crucial, albeit challenging question.
Okay.
If we want to change our reality, can we actually change these ingrained assumptions?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
It feels like some of these assumptions are so deeply ingrained. How can we possibly change them? It feels like some of these assumptions are so deeply ingrained. How could we possibly change them?
It's definitely a challenge, but according to Jung, it starts with taking responsibility for our own circumstances.
That sounds tough, but also kind of empowering. Like if we have the power to create these negative realities through our assumptions, we also have the power to change them.
Exactly, and that's where it gets really interesting. The excerpt mentions a few techniques for shifting these assumptions, things like controlled imagination, visualization, and repetition.
Those sound pretty intense. Can you break those down for us?
Controlled imagination is about vividly imagining the reality you want, engaging all your senses, even your emotions. It's not just daydreaming, it's about creating a new mental and emotional blueprint that your subconscious can latch onto.
So if I want to attract more abundance, I wouldn't just picture piles of money. I'd imagine what it would actually feel like to live that reality, the joy, the gratitude, the freedom.
Exactly. It's about embodying the experience, not just the outcome, and that's where visualization comes in. It's not just passively picturing something. It's actively conditioning your mind to accept this new assumption as true. You're essentially rewiring your brain by repeatedly experiencing this new reality in your mind.
And repetition is key here, right? It's like building a muscle. You don't get results from one workout.
You got it. Consistency is crucial. Jung uses a great analogy. You plant the seed, the assumption, before you see the harvest, the outcome. It takes time for that seed to grow and bear fruit.
That makes sense. But what about those pesky doubts that inevitably creep in? The what-ifs and the fears that tell us it's not going to work. How do we deal with those?
Those doubts are normal. They're part of the process. The key is to acknowledge them without letting them take over. It's like learning a new skill. There will be mistakes and moments of frustration, but that doesn't mean you give up.
So how do we handle those negative assumptions that seem to pop up automatically?
Yeah.
The worrying about failure, the always assuming the worst case scenario. Address that at all?
He does. He emphasizes the importance of awareness. We have to actively identify those hidden, limiting beliefs that are running in the background. It's like shining a light on those dark corners of our minds. Once we see them clearly, we can start to challenge and replace them.
So we're not just passively accepting these negative assumptions anymore. We're consciously choosing new, empowering ones. What are some practical ways to do that?
Jung suggests using affirmations, but not just repeating them mindlessly. He recommends a technique of repeating them in a drowsy, meditative state.
Interesting. Why a drowsy state?
The idea is that when our minds are relaxed and receptive, we can bypass that conscious resistance and imprint those new beliefs directly onto our subconscious.
So it's about creating a space where those affirmations can really sink in and take root.
Exactly. It's like planting a seed in fertile soil. And it's not enough to just think it or say it, we have to live it. The excerpt emphasizes embodying the new assumption in our daily lives.
Right, like if we're trying to cultivate abundance but still acting from a place of scarcity, we're sending mixed messages to our subconscious.
Precisely. Our actions need to align with our new beliefs. If we believe we're capable and worthy, we need to act in ways that demonstrate that. If we believe success is possible, we need to take the steps to make it happen.
So it's this feedback loop. Our beliefs shape our actions, and our actions reinforce our beliefs. But what about when things happen that are totally out of our control? How does this assumption-shaping reality thing work then?
That's a great point. It's important to remember that we don't have control over everything. There will always be external factors, unforeseen circumstances, even just plain bad luck that can impact our lives.
So it's not about believing we can magically control every aspect of our reality.
Right. It's more about recognizing that even in the face of challenges, we still have the power to choose how we respond, how we interpret events, what meaning we assign to them.
So even when things go wrong, when we face setbacks or disappointments, we can still choose to look for the positive, to learn from the experience, and to hold on to that belief that things will ultimately work out.
Exactly. It's about cultivating resilience, knowing that even when life throws us a curveball, we have the inner resources to navigate those challenges and come out stronger on the other side. It's like that concept of grit we've talked about before, that ability to keep going even when things are tough.
Yeah. I'm starting to see how this all ties together. If you believe you're capable and resourceful, you're more likely to bounce back from setbacks. You don't see failure as a dead end, but as a learning opportunity.
Absolutely. And those strong beliefs fuel our actions, shape our choices, and ultimately manifest in our reality. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy in a positive way.
It's amazing to think that we hold this power, but I have to admit, a part of me still struggles with this whole idea that our thoughts can actually shape our reality.
I understand it's a big shift in perspective, but think about it. Our brains are constantly processing information, making connections, shaping our perceptions. Why wouldn't our thoughts have an impact on our reality?
I guess it's like we're the directors of our own mental movies, choosing the script and influencing the plot with the assumptions we hold.
That's a great way to put it, and the exciting part is that we can rewrite that script anytime we want. We can choose to focus on thoughts and beliefs that empower us, that support our goals, and that create a reality we love.
Okay, I'm starting to get... It's less about some mystical force and more about understanding how our minds work and then consciously using that knowledge to our advantage.
Right. It's about taking responsibility, recognizing that we're not just passive observers, but active participants in shaping our experiences.
Which brings us to the question Jung leaves us with: what will you choose to assume today? What reality will you create?
That's a question we should all be asking ourselves constantly. What limiting assumption might be holding you back right now? And what would happen if you consciously replaced it with a more empowering one? It's not always easy, but it is possible. It's about making that choice every single day.
That's such a powerful reminder. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Jung. It's given me a lot to think about. Our minds are powerful architects. Choose your assumptions wisely.